You know that feeling? You're at a show, totally lost in the music, and then you look up at the stage and the artist is just staring at their laptop? It can be kind of confusing, right? Well, today we're going to decode what's actually happening out there and find a whole new way to appreciate the art of electronic performance. So to really get into this, we have to start with a really basic question. What even is a performance? It sounds simple, but let's be honest. Electronic music throws a real curveball at our expectations of what a live show should look like. I want you to picture this. The lights are low, the sound is huge and complex, just filling the room. But the source of it all? It's one person, barely moving, just staring at a glowing screen. Does that feel the same as watching a guitarist shred a solo? Yeah, probably not. And that feeling, that little bit of confusion, that's exactly what we're going to unravel. And what's so wild is just how massive the range is. On one end, you've got the total spectacle, right? The DJ who is all action, a blur of motion, and their energy is a huge part of the show. And then on the complete other end, you have total stillness, the artist who almost disappears, letting the sound be the only thing on stage. And this brings us to a really crucial point from researcher Marco Siciliani. This isn't about what the technology forces them to do anymore. We're way past the time when an artist had to hide behind a laptop. Today, the choice to be that high-energy spectacle or that quiet, focused creator, that's a conscious artistic decision. It's a statement. So this creates a pretty big problem, right? Our usual way of thinking about music, our genre labels, it completely falls apart when we talk about performance. I mean, we love our labels, but they don't tell us a thing about what the artist is actually doing. Sure, we can call a track glitch or electronica, and that's cool. It tells us about the textures and the rhythms we're hearing. But it tells us absolutely nothing about what the artist is physically doing on stage to make that sound. The label describes the end product, not the process. And this is exactly the wall that researchers hit. They realized that trying to create some rigid list of performance types was a total dead end. The scene is just too fluid, too creative. That whole idea of putting everything in neat little boxes, it just breaks. So if labels and types are out, then what's the alternative? Well, this is where Marco Siciliani's research offers up a pretty brilliant solution, a totally new way of thinking. Instead of rigid boxes, he suggests we think of performance as a wide open space of possibilities. He calls it a parametric space. Now, I know that sounds a little academic, right? But the core idea is actually super simple. Instead of trying to force every performance into a box, we just use a shared set of characteristics, like sliders on a dial, to describe it. Think of it as a toolkit for understanding, not a rulebook. And this is the perfect way to picture it. Imagine a giant mixing board, but instead of faders for volume and bass, its sliders control the characteristics of the performance itself. And every single artist makes a choice about where to set each of those sliders for their show. So, what are these sliders? Well, there are 4 key ones to look at. First up, physicality. Pretty simple. How much is the artist moving? Then there's interface transparency, which basically means, can you clearly see how their actions are making the sound? Third is improvisation. How much of this is being made up on the spot versus just playback? And finally, performer focus. Is the show about watching the person, or is it all about the sound? Okay, that's enough theory. Let's actually put this framework into action. We can look at a few classic types of performers and see where their slider settings stack up on this big conceptual mixing board of ours. First up, let's talk about the expressive controllerist. You know this artist. They're all about the gear, smashing drum pads, frantically twisting knobs, really physically playing their setup in a way that's super visible and engaging. So for this artist, that physicality slider is cranked all the way up. Transparency, that's probably in the middle, right? We see them hit a pad, we hear a drum, that's clear. But what all those other knobs are doing, hard to say. Improvisation is also often in the middle, a mix of planned sections and live tweaks. And performer focus, that is set to high. The whole point is to watch them go. All right, now for a totally different vibe, the live coder. This is an artist who performs by literally writing computer code in real time, and they usually project it on a giant screen behind them so you can see it all happen. So here, the physicality slider is way, way down. I mean, it's mostly just typing, but transparency is maxed out. You can literally watch the architecture of the music being built as lines of code pop up on the screen. Improvisation is also incredibly high, since they're often building the music from scratch. And performer focus is low. Your attention is glued to the screen and the sound, not the person at the keyboard. Okay, and for our last one, let's circle all the way back to that artist we started with. the one standing almost perfectly still, creating these huge soundscapes from their laptop. Let's call them the stoic ambient artist. With this style, the physicality and transparency sliders are both turned way down low. We can't really see what they're doing, and their movements are tiny. Improvisation could be anywhere, but let's put it in the middle. They're probably guiding and shaping things that are already there. And crucially, performer focus is set to low. And this is totally on purpose. They want you to forget they're even there. The sound is the one and only star of the show. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? What does this new perspective actually give us? I mean, why is thinking with these sliders any better than just saying a show was high energy or super chill? Well, for starters, it gives all of us a shared, more precise language to talk about what we're seeing. It reframes every single performance, no matter what it looks like, as a series of conscious, artistic choices. And maybe most importantly, it shifts our own question from a confused, what are they even doing up there, to a much more interesting, okay, why did they choose to present their music this way? And that's the real power here. This isn't just some academic exercise. It's a tool for deeper appreciation. It helps us understand that the artist standing motionless behind their laptop isn't failing to perform. No, they're making a powerful, deliberate choice about where to direct your focus. They are curating your entire experience. So I want you to try this out. The next time you're at a show, don't just watch the performance, kind of analyze it. Look for those sliders. Where's the physicality set? How high is the transparency? By actively looking for these artistic choices, I promise you are going to unlock a whole new layer of appreciation for the music you love.